I have a few starting points that I was considering, like going through an art program in high school to first entering the art and art history program at UTM. But I'd probably say I didn't really start my artistic practice until the summer between second and third year. I think that was 2017. I was going to like 10-ish galleries per week, reading and watching everything I could. Not getting that many hard skills in, but like starting to get there. I don't think I ever wanted to become an artist. It kind of just happened. This is the best way for me to live, to inhabit, and to interact with and understand the world. I have a friend who would say stuff like calling things like callings sounds too Disney like, but it really felt that way looking back. I had a conversation too with a professor about art and changing the world, and if that's what I wanted to do, then I was in the wrong career path, which I agree with. Maybe not change the world then, but if I can help people in asking questions collectively and collectively trying to answer them, even if they're just small questions, then that's why I do art, I think. For hard material change, I do things outside of my art, which end up informing the art itself anyway. I wanted to participate in the development of the local art scene outside of Toronto and in my own region of Peel. I also got to see two close friends previously participate in the residency, which was one of many experiences that led them to where they are now. Um, and then I also wanted to make connections with peers and emerging artists closer to home, but uh, COVID happened. So anyway. So the work is, well, I mean, the main driving force behind the work is my Lola, my late grandmother, as well as other family members and my relationships with them. I do have a list of influences and references because it was my thesis work as well. But I think the main influences were Ozu, the filmmaker. I was watching his films a lot during the process of making the video, and there's a writer, M. Evelina Galang, um, who wrote a book that did a lot of like the um, propelling of my thinking process for the work, as well as the Toronto Relation International Film Festival. So, friend of a friend, I think um, from the title, it's about connections. And again, informing me to make sense of the world through these connections. I think the opportunity was a good one to decentralize Toronto as like the place to be or make or show work, and demonstrate that back to my peers. The narrative that you have to be in Toronto just to do and make work, there's a lot of stuff to tackle there, like accessibility, monopoly, and stuff. But it was nice to position myself in my own region, which is something I do within my work. But to be able to do that outside of the work itself is nice. So it was a lot of staring at blank walls or staring outside of windows. I always find it hard to talk about my process just because that's a large part of it. But because it was my thesis work, I started with assessing and reassessing all the work that I'd done up to that point. Not just the work, but also the experiences that I've had over the years and the people I'd met. So there was a text that came with the video, and in the original text, it started with recalling this exhibition I was part of in 2019, reflecting on feeling like kind of a ghost, remembering some of the advice I was giving. And for this video at the time, I was recommended a few films and I sought my own books for research. There was one book in particular that really formed the basis for the video, and it was a retelling of the author's experience interviewing Filipino women survivors of World War II. Um, and it was really heavy. Like I had to process my reaction, which was very emotional and physical. Through the pandemic, I was still going into the studio because no one was really allowed except for the senior students. So there were a few days I just let myself feel those emotions and follow wherever it took me. My old bits of writings and thoughts, like I kept looking back on old advice because I was largely alone through the making of the work, especially with the pandemic. Um, some days were quick and some were slow. I had a lot of caffeine. It's like endless coffee. Those are probably the quicker days. Um, there was a film projector, for instance, just sitting there collecting dust in the studio, and I started to play around with it and thought of things of like how it sounds like a car engine if you press your ear against its body, or what my connection to like literal film was. And being born when I was born, there really was no real connection. And so thinking about what that means, or for my specific experience of time and history, I was thinking of memory and dealing with memory. I had to be more delicate, I think. And there's a line from the text that came with the work, which was something I liked. I think I found that memory requires a more delicate hand, for me at least. And perhaps I'm stretching, but it reminds me of how I was the designated arm lender when my Lola needed one to walk beside. A murmuration. I learned this means when starlings move in blob like formations, become unstable ice, becomes a butterfly, becomes a passing loved one. Um, and so a lot of my work is like letting these connections draw themselves in my head and following them to talk of something bigger than uh, what they are, simply put, and a lot of caffeine. So I'm not too sure about success because I'm pretty harsh on myself as a critic, and I have a really like skewed sense of what success is, maybe because of my upbringing. But I do take words seriously wherever I can. Advice, feedback, criticism, like these are interactions I value because um, nothing really existing in a vacuum is a big part of what my art is, more or less, or at least the process is. And I think that's really what takes me to uh, greater heights, maybe. For challenges, I do think I have uh, pretty bad luck with timing, thinking of like the when it rains, it pours with everything that happened to propel the video, and then other things that happened during the pandemic that are like affecting the things that I've made or am making right now. Um, but I also wouldn't be where I am today without these struggles. Like that's just life. But reconfiguring these things and like my reactions to them um, to keep like myself and everyone else's chins up. I think that's what it's about. Um, Taking breaks too is obviously important for the creative process.
Thank you, James. That's the list of questions I have. No, that was good. It was good. It's no, 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 no.